Well, thank you so much for having me again. I'm excited to talk about this today.
And we're going to talk about alternative methods of down payment assistance. Yes.
Along the same lines of gift funds is a gift of equity. I've got a transaction closing on Thursday, and they're getting a gift of equity. One sister is buying a property from another sister, and gifts of equity only work when the transaction is between family members. So with a gift of equity, 100% of the funds for this transaction are coming from this gift of equity. That one's ended up being really interesting. They had been working with another lender prior to coming to me, and the other lender really did not understand what equity was and how it can be used in a transaction for a gift of equity. He had explained it to them as, you sell the house for $200,000 and the property appraises for $225,000. So you're really selling it for slightly below market value. And that gift of equity is that $25,000 over and above the sales price. No. Yeah, that's kind of sort of equity, but it's not the sort of equity that can be used in a transaction.
You can't put it in your pocket.
And it took several conversations with the seller for them to understand that a gift of equity is truly a gift of your net proceeds from this sale.
Yeah, usually gifts of equity come in when it happens. The state divides between three siblings, and one sibling's living in the house, and they're going to keep the house and that kind of thing. So gifts of equity that I've ever dealt with.
Mm-hmm. It could be that. It's also really common to see grandparents. We see it more so up here in North Carolina, where you've got generations have owned these large tracts of land, and they are subdividing their land and giving a child or grandchild a couple of acres to build a home. And that is considered a gift of equity. Gifts of equity, depending on the amount, can have tax implications. So that's always something that you want to have a client referred to a tax professional to find out how that's going to impact from a tax standpoint. A couple other possible sources of income, down payment, grants. So it could be like local bonds, could be grants, down payment, kind of under the category of down payment assistance programs. It also could be a lender credit. If somebody just needs a little bit more money to help cover the closing cost or those prepaids, you could get a lender credit where they're paying a little higher interest rate. I mean, interest rates are higher right now anyhow, but they can pay a little higher interest rate and get a lender credit. I've done this a number of times for some first-time home buyers that they were able to roll that additional cost into their monthly payment. They could absorb that okay. They were just short some funds. So lender credits are a great way to put a little extra cash in buyers' hands. Bridge loans are something that are coming back for people that currently own a property and just need some funds for that next home, knowing that they're going to be able to sell the existing property. So bridge loans are something that are coming back. We do have a broker source for bridge loans. And real quick, wrap this up on cash. So cash, we kind of touched on it before. So if you've got cash in an account, cash is going to show up. One, you could just see these little cash deposits. And depending on the amount of money, it's something called large deposits. So we're looking at every single deposit. Are those deposits coming from an employer or are they not coming from an employer? If they're in each particular type of loan determines, or loan type and the loan amount determines what is considered a large deposit. So a large deposit could be cash. It may not be cash, but we have to source those funds. So if you've got just little bits of cash coming in, somebody reimburses you $20 and you put that in your account, that cash is not a big deal. If they put in, if you put in $2,000 and you can't show that the paper trail where that money came from, that cash cannot be used. Mattress money, how are you going to document the mattress money? I had one not too long ago where the folks had sold a property. They had the net proceeds. We had all the documentation. We had the closing disclosure. We had the wire transfer from the closing attorney from the sale of that property, perfectly acceptable sources of their down payment. And then we're looking at the flow of the money in and out of their bank statements. And we've got to have 2 months bank statements so if somebody goes under contract today, puts in an application today, I've got to have 2 months, the last 2 months of your bank statements. Well, we start looking at these people's bank statements. We see the money coming in from the sale of their house, but then we see $10,000 going out, 4 different transactions. And then all of a sudden we see, we might see a $15,000 transaction coming back in here. And then it's a $12,000 transaction. And then a $17,000 transaction of money coming back in. It was this really weird flow of money. Turns out they wanted to see what $40,000 looked like sitting on their dining room table. The proceeds that they received from the sale of their home now has become non-sourceable, essentially mattress money, and large cash deposits coming back into their account. We can no longer track it or source it. That did not close.
What if somebody has, like Bobby has, big old rooms full of gold? Do you have to sell the gold in order to borrow against it?
And it's going to be like, you can't show up at the close. And I actually had this like knocking heads kind of conversation with my stepdad. And he's like, well, cash is a perfectly acceptable source of currency. I don't understand why you can't use cash, why you can't just show up with cash at a closing table. You can't source it. And it really comes down to anti-money laundering. And so many of the laws that we see today, the regulations and guidelines that we see today, are because of the monstrous legislation called the Dodd-Frank Act that came out of the 2008 crash. And all the money laundering and the anti-terrorism, part of it rolls into the Patriot Act that prevents all of this. And so if you've got bars of gold sitting in your house, or if you've got coins, it's going to fall into these other assets that, you're going to need to liquidate them. You got to show the ownership, and you've got to be able to liquidate them and show that flow of the money. This is where you sold them. This is where it got deposited into your checking account, and it just has to be documented. I
had a closing in the early 2000s. And about 16 people walked into the room. This man and wife, husband and wife, were buying this property. It was like a $70,000 property. And at the end of it, like 16 people come walking in the room, and they literally started emptying coat pockets and things and put mounds of cash on the table. And the closing attorney had to get like 4 people, and they had to put it on. They put every bit of it where the serial numbers could be seen, and they copied on the copier. I was like, man, it looks like we're really literally printing money in here now. They color copied it. Every one of those dollar bills, 10s, 50s, whatever they had, and literally document every serial number from every bill. Yep. And that's how they closed on that house. It was crazy down to money.
I've had 2 closing attorneys there in the Atlanta area tell very similar stories where people walked into the closing with literally a suitcase of cash. My start in real estate was back in the mid-90s. And worked for John Wheeland Homes. And even one of our clients there, I actually remember exactly who he was. I was not at the closing. He was this young, very, very cocky doctor. And he was one of the ones that walked in with a suitcase full of cash for his down payment.
It used to work. Can't do it.
Used to work. Can't do that today. And getting back to having the conversation with clients. And this is something, just working with a good lender, we're going to have this conversation initially. Like one of my real estate clients, one of the more interesting real estate clients I'd had a referral come to me, and this guy was working at a local car dealership, killing it, making 6-figure income. He hadn't been there real long, but just killing it. So one, we couldn't use his income because it was all commission. You got to wait 2 years before you've got all commission income. Had a lot of money to put down. So he thought, I'm making bank now, got lots of money to put down. It's going to be no problem to buy a house. Wrong. We're like, where's the lender that I always use goes, where's your money coming from? Oh, I've got it in a safe in my house. Now, one, where'd that money come from to start with? He literally had hundreds of thousands of dollars. He had been an exotic dancer at one of the strip clubs there in Atlanta.
Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with
it. And so none of it was reported. And it's essentially in his closet in a safe. And it took 2 years of just small deposits in his checking account to get that money seasoned in order for him to be able to buy, long enough on his job that we could use his income. But, just because somebody's got really great income or they've actually got some funds doesn't mean we can always use them. It's about asking deeper questions and being able to document it. And how is it being used in the transaction?
I'll be sharing insightful and informative videos on stress-free retirement, being your own bank, setting up college funds, understanding Social Security, wills, probate, trust, and how the Fed Reserve rate hikes affect your mortgage rates. And always, real estate solutions. I'm your go-to expert in real property. Look for my YouTube channel, living in Canton, Georgia, where it is sunny as can be right now. If you find value here, please like and share so others might as well. Remember, I'm not a videographer, not a video editor. I just want to share the most important info with you guys. Each video has a full version of around half hour or so, but there are multiple shorts of only 5 minutes or less as well. My name, Daniel Klopfelter. My area of specialty is real estate and asset protection for more than 25 years. So why am I exhorting you to view financial-based videos on a real estate channel? Good question. I believe that we all do better when we know better, which is why I'm here to expose you to a team of experts who know the topics that matter most. All of these topics work in unison. Full disclosure, I receive nothing for doing these videos other than the satisfaction of adding value to you. So smash that like button already. What are you waiting for? Share this so other people can see it. Y'all have a great day.